Okay, and I also need to switch on my video.
Right.
Okay, so hi again, and let's dig deeper into what's troubleshooting of web applications, especially three-tier web applications, and what can you do with them in our educational environment. During this webinar, or to be honest, masterclass, we will speak about what three-tier applications are, which typical failures you may face with them. Then we will continue to how our educational applications work and how we may troubleshoot typical issues with them. So let's start from this section about three-tier web applications. First of all, regardless of the specific details of web applications itself, I have a question to you. What do you think about why we need to crash applications during the classes or during our practice? So why it may be useful for our QA career?
Well, I guess we need to do so to try to look on app from a different angles, from a different point of view.
Okay, and what's the final gain? What's the final twist? How you may improve your skills during such experiments?
Well, if you're gonna find some bugs, that's gonna be perfect. But also, you might try to get to know how the app is working.
Okay, that's right. So guys, do you have any more ideas about that?
Well, as well, we can try to look on some weak sides of the application. Maybe we can improve it to make it better.
Maybe yes, but I can resume that for me, the main purpose of creating applications is to know better its typical issues. And for example, imagine yourself as a child, and you know that children like to crash toys, but the main purpose of such toy crashing is not only the wish to destruct anything. Typically, the main purpose of toy crashing is to know better what's inside, and that's our purpose and our aim too.
To get to know how it works, right?
Absolutely right. So, when we want to get deeper into our modern applications, as we know that in modern world, the most part of applications that we use outside of our computers are very complicated. Of course, if you face with a simple calculator or something similar, these desktop standalone applications are really simple and they contain only one piece. But when it turns to something related to web or client-server architecture, we know that the application's interface is a very small part of the application itself, and due to that, when we speak about bugs, if we found a bug, we may state that only very few amount of bugs are related to UI, to user interface. And the majority of bugs and issues are related to much deeper things like, I don't know, several issues with databases, with possible integrations. For example, when your web application also accepts your accounts from Google, Yandex, or Mail.ru, and so on. Maybe such bugs and issues are related to something wrongly configured in your environment, in your operating system, in your networks, and so on, so on. And when you have enough experience and enough skills to find to properly find the root cause and so on, it means that you may save a lot of time to all your colleagues, especially developers and DevOps, and you may quickly find the exact root cause and report this information for faster fix. So guys, do you have any questions related to this slide?
Well, it looks very interesting. Let's have a look a little bit closer.
Okay, so you will have a lot of chances to look deeper. Do you have any more questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we continue our discussion about bug localization and so on, I need to highlight the following. So, as you know, a good QA engineer, at first, he or she maybe call it not only a QA specialist or a tester, he or she really deserves to be named as software engineer. And these good and experienced guys can localize a complicated bug, keeping in mind the very complex components and their interactions and so on. These good and experienced guys, I mean software engineers, may attach everything required. So I mean all log files from all affected components and so on. These guys also can fully and completely describe the exact root cause to the proper teams. So if a bug is localized well, the exact team, like for example backend developers or DevOps or someone else, can start to fix the bug as soon as possible. Otherwise, if a typical, I mean not so good QA engineer faces a bug, unfortunately, a typical QA engineer cannot properly localize a bug, and it leads to very long, how it can be said, football match between different teams. So, for example, if a bug is not localized as expected, then the bug may be assigned to another team that is not responsible for that. For example, if this bug was wrongly assigned to our front-end developers, they may look deeper and say, okay, that's not our bug, we need to find someone else to fix the bug. Then the bug may be returned to QA team, and QA team needs more efforts to localize that. And anyway, if the QA team doesn't include anyone enough experience, the bug may be wrongly assigned again to DevOps team, and this football match may long for a while. But if you have enough experience and if you know well your application, it means that you may save a lot of efforts for all involved guys, and moreover, and maybe more important for the longer interactions and communication and team spirit and so on. If you can do that well, it means that you may keep or even help to build good kind of communication between all involved teams, because you may help to localize a bug quickly, and that really decreases the possible number of conflicts, of misunderstanding, and so on, so on. And anyway, that leads to very fast bug fixing. And one important note before we continue to some technical aspects is that when we speak about real-world applications, that may be real-world applications may be really complicated. They are really difficult to understand them in deep, and their logic may contain much harder bugs than several samples that we will show and explain a bit later. So it means that to properly localize a logical bug, first you need to properly localize the system or environmental bugs, and that would be your first step to be a good software engineers. So guys, do you have any more questions about this slide?
Well, no, sounds interesting. Like you explained that it's a football game.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when QA specialists trying to find real reason of the bug, and he or she spent a lot of time to know what is the real reason. So how to find this maybe golden mean? How much time he or she must spend to find real reason? I mean, if QA engineer cannot find it, so how is better to know how much time is to spend? I mean, you cannot spend a lot of time for one bug. You found and tried to localize it. Maybe you localized it not fully, or couldn't find real reason, but you should find other bugs, and you should check other parts of the system. So have to balance between finding a real reason and other bugs. So
okay, so it really depends on your workload and the working processes within your QA team. So I cannot say that there is one golden best practice for that that is common for all IT companies in the world. So based on my experience, I can say that in brief, so any bug can be any complicated bug can be how can be said, you may operate with a complicated bug in two ways. The first way is maybe you may localize it fast. The second way is when you try to localize it, for example, during half an hour, and if you haven't succeeded with any kind of localization during half an hour or maybe 1 hour at most, it means that maybe it's better not to spend your time on that. So I'm not trying to say that you must localize every bug during your career. Something may be really complicated, especially if your software does something deep with OS kernel or with your drivers and so on. And maybe these very complicated things should be better moved or assigned to the appropriate developers who know this domain much better. But in common case, when we operate with something more high level like web applications and so on, often you as a good QA engineer have high chances to quickly localize a bug. So hope that I answered your question. Otherwise, please let me know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it really
understood.
depends on experience, I guess.
Yes, right. And again, when you try to compare a good QA specialist with an average QA specialist, in most cases, a good QA specialist can localize much more bugs than a typical QA specialist.
Understood.
Okay, thanks, Fedor.
Thanks.
You too. Yelena, and maybe you have some questions?
No, thanks. So I just listen to you and try to find out something new, understand you. Thanks.
Okay, so I hope that you will have something to ask when we pass to the technical details and aspects.
Maybe
Okay.
just I'm a beginner and I think I'll have a lot of questions, but
Okay.
maybe later.
So anyway, all of you are welcome. And if something looks really weird, and if you have any questions, it's better to ask them as soon as these questions arise. Otherwise, you may lose a chance to understand something further. Okay, so let's continue to brief explanations of three-tier architecture. I hope that every one of you have heard these words as front-end, back-end, and database.
Yes.
If not,
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, and in brief, if you have heard them, it's better not to spend a lot of time here. So, in brief, any complicated server application, especially if this application works under high load, it's better to be split into several pieces. The first and the most visible for the end user piece is named like this because it resides in the front, just near the customer, and this part of application is responsible for your interface. And for interface, for several kinds of reporting, it shows you a lot of different buttons, input fields, and so on. So this component is not required to be very smart and very intelligent and very, very complicated. This part and this component needs to be intuitive, needs to be well understandable by user, and needs to be enough beautiful to let the user perform typical actions like login, like see your action history, or if we speak about internet shops, to see your basket, and so on, so on. And also, this part is called like presentation tier because all your application results are shown here. But when we dig deeper, we will find another piece that is called backend, and also this part is named as logic tier because the main part of logic, so I mean data processing, is performed here. For example, if user wants to pick up any item and move this item to his basket. This request first is processed by the front end, and then our backend requires, so the backend needs to do a lot of things. For example, again, if it turns to typical internet shop, the backend needs to figure out a lot of things. For example, are there any discounts that are applicable for particularly this customer, or is this item now into our warehouse? So is it accessible for ordering, and so on, so on. And this logic is closely related to the data, and it's very logical that our data are stored somewhere in database. And this splitting into several components is really convenient for applications that are under high load. It's very convenient for development teams, and it's much easier to maintain the big application when it's split into several pieces. So, guys, any questions here?
Yes, I have a question. Is this three-tier architecture can be applied to any kind of apps, or let's say
so when we speak about client-server applications, I can say that there is more common name n-tier architecture, and the value of n really depends of your application complexity, of features, and so on. But so my experience, three-tier splitting is really very common.
So it's mostly, okay.
Yes, right. Especially when we speak about web applications, and as you know, in the modern world, you may face a lot of web applications, even if you open a mobile application at your smartphone. In most cases, the server part of this application can be represented as three-tier web application.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, guys, any more questions here? Okay, if you have no questions, let's continue. And of course, when the for any complicated application, you may find a lot of possible points of failure. Just for example, when we speak about three-tier applications, if something is going wrong with your database, it means that all other layers experience a lot of issues. When, for example, a network is broken or network connectivity is broken between, for example, your backend and frontend, it means that the customers will be unable to do anything. If something goes wrong with backend logic, just for example, if the backend contains a logical bug when it refuses to serve all customers that are younger than 25 years, it's much harder to localize, but you may face the similar issues too. So it means that in complicated applications, almost anything may go wrong. And it means that you, as a good QA engineers, need to properly localize these issues. So here you may see only a small subset of potential issues, because in real-world applications that may be really difficult and complex and so on, such list of possible troubles may be much bigger. Just for example, you may imagine a case when when the authentication of your application is related to Google or to Yandex or to Mail.ru or to VK, and if something goes wrong with this external subsystem like Gmail or Yandex and so on, it means that that your customers will experience a lot of troubles, even not related to your application itself. So, guys, any questions here?
For me, it's not so far.
Okay.
I have a question which doesn't relate it with slide. Are you making a screen recording of this presentation? I mean, could we get some video of this presentation if we want to watch it again, or if we want to share with someone?
Yes, definitely. So this video will be published in our channel at YouTube.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so it's not in trouble. Okay, so now let's speak in brief about one of our educational applications that we will crash a bit later. So a bit later, you will see a very simple 3-tier web application that, as its 3-tier has its UI part. So its front, it contains its backend part, and it also related with DB. Here at this slide, you may see some kind of technical documentation. I cannot say that this documentation is full, but anyway, it's good enough to start any kind of tasks with that. So based on this slide, we know on which servers and which ports you may find these applications. For simplicity, all these applications and the database as well are deployed at the same machine, and that are different applications. In real world conditions, you may find that every part, I mean UI, I mean backend and database, are working at different servers. And moreover, if your application is working under high load, it often means that a lot of servers are assigned just to one piece. So it means that for backend, you may have a lot of servers. For UI, you may also have a lot of servers, and for DB, it's also true. But again, our application is simple. It doesn't work under high load, and that's why we have a chance to deploy all required components within one machine. So again, as for used ports, we will see the exact ports a bit later. As for database, the name of the user to access the database is related to your account name in operating system. So if I work under ST01 OS account, it means that my DB username will be auth lower minus ST O1. And we also know that this database that is used for this application contains two tables that are named login and role. To access all these components, we also have an account in our operating system. So all of you have your own accounts. Also, you have specific accounts to access the data here. And we also know that there are different passwords for your OS account and for your DB account. We also know that within this machine, that's the name of service that is responsible for UI, and that is the name of service that is responsible for backend. So guys, do you have any questions related to the central part and to the left part of the slide?
Well, I guess when we're gonna try to do so, it's gonna be, it looks like more.
Okay, I agree. And just the last words about this slide. When we will try to find anything wrong in the application's behavior, we need to operate with their log files. And we know, so imagine that this slide was prepared by our analysts or our developers. We know that all our applications, so front-end, back-end, and database, write their log files to this subsystem. And we also know that this service that is responsible for backend operations writes these keywords in its log messages when something goes wrong. And we also know which URLs may be used to quickly check the status of our backend. So let me demonstrate in brief how this application works. So I hope that every one of you has already connected to OpenVPN, and that's why you may successfully access your applications. At first, I need to figure out which ports are related to my services. And please be careful, so I'll show you several things. At first, we know how our services are named, and we need to check whether they are working or not. So let's ask our operating system about that. We need to execute the following command. Or I may use something like that. Yes, it's a typo. And when I see the following output, it means that my own backend service that is deployed here isn't working. One important thing is that, as you may see here, and as you make your conclusions from this slide, it means that every one of you has your own instances of this part, and all required databases. So you may work with your instances of these applications without affecting anyone else. So just for example, when I start the services of my own UI part and backend part, it would not affect any one of you. When I want to crash my instance of, for example, backend application, again, it would not affect your own services. So to start your own service that is responsible for backend, you need to do the following thing. I hope that you see my command line here, and you may also execute exactly the same command. Okay, guys, so please let me know when you are ready, when you start your Java auth service and when you start your Node.js auth service.
Further, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Those commands are commands for which part of the service? Is it database or this?
Okay, so again, we may refer to this slide and we may see the following. So we see that the front end is served by Node.js auth service. And Java auth service is responsible for backend functionality.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Different
And
command, same block. Okay.
And as for database, the service for database is the same, so you don't need to do anything with database service because your own databases are stored here.
So we need to basically put after the $sign our login, right?
You may you may use the same construction as
Or
shown here.
We should use the username or our names.
You may use this variable, or you may write the name of your account. So as you wish, and which form is more convenient for you. I think that it's better when you definitely know that the name of the service contains your username. It's much shorter to use the following construction.
Oh, exactly same. All right.
Okay, guys. So please let me know when you start your Java auth service and Node.js auth service.
I've done the first. Let me finish the other one. Well, when I apply the first one, it gives me 3 different answers. Is that correct? Or
Seems that you forgot to specify sudo.
oh yeah. You're right.
So if something goes wrong, you may press Ctrl+C, and that will terminate the previous command.
Yep.
And Yelena, are you ready?
No, because on the screen I can see that the status active running in your screen, but
Yes, right.
in my active, inactive, or dead.
Okay, so have you executed
Yes.
this command?
Yeah.
Okay, and what? Have you seen any errors after its execution?
No, just that the system is inactive.
It's very weird. So may you please type the name of your user in Zoom chat?
Type of user. It's like a
z-
login.
Yes, right. So what's the name of your user?
ST09.
ST09. Okay, let's check. So
Yeah, the same. Inactive data.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I may debug in real time your issues. So I need root account. That's right. So let's switch to your user. Let's look at your Zeran no bash history. Really? Okay. So let me do that for you. It's not so hard. Systemctl start Java aus st something like that. So we see that there are no errors here. Systemctl status Java aus your username. Everything is okay. So maybe I'm not sure, but maybe you made a mistake in this command. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll check 1 minute.
Okay, guys. And what about are there anyone who hasn't completed the start of service?
Me, as I mentioned.
Okay, so you still experience some issues with OpenVPN, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yes, I'm really sorry because I cannot help you.
Yeah,
So we haven't seen such issues in the past.
Don't worry. I think if I watch how you will do it, I think it will be it will be good for me. So
Okay.
maybe it's enough.
Hope that that may be helpful too.
Yeah.
Hi, Nikita. And are you ready?
Hello, I'm just listening because I don't for the first time connect to Mentorpiece, and I just listening how I can understood about English study.
Okay. So let's assume that everything is okay, and let's continue with Alexander and Elena.
Further, yeah, I'm having trouble with this specification sudo. I've tried several times. Is the sudo system? Can you show me again what is the yes sudo? What is the specification? Should I write the same like sudo systematic start Java alt and then?
Yes, right. And after the final dot, you need to specify the name of your user.
Let me try again. Just a second.
Elena, and meanwhile, you may start your remaining service. I mean this one. So, and in my main working window, the corresponding command is here. So I hope that it will.
Well, I've done the first, and then should I perform the second one?
Yes, right. So you need to start the both services. I mean, Java house and Node.js house.
Well, it finally works. Just a second, I'll type the other one.
Could
Sorry,
you?
sorry for the. Can I see the hint again, because I don't have any other one? So
Yes, right. So you may see the command here.
almost done.
Mhm.
So I have an idea as a case. We can try to localize my problem. Why OpenVPN doesn't work?
And
No, it was just joke. Sorry.
so as we tried before the start of the webinar to change a provider and to switch to mobile internet, and I have no fast and quick ideas of fixing that.
No, Fedor, don't worry. I'm just joking. While guys are trying to set their PuTTY. So
Okay, so Alexander, have you successfully completed Node.js house start?
Sorry, can you remind me how to deal with to start it over again?
Okay, so to start the service, you need to write the following.
No, how to
So-
drop to default to start it again, because it shows me in some way of the password asking something.
Okay, are you sure that you specified sudo as the first command?
Yes, I've done. I'm just gonna do the copy paste and it's gonna be fast. So Control C, or how to erase it?
Yes, you may interrupt the command by using Control C. And guys, for simplicity, let me send you the boss commands to Zoom chat. Maybe it's simpler and it may help to avoid mistakes or typos here. Zoom chat. So chat is here. The first command is sent. And this, I'm sorry. Copy, paste, and the second command is in Zoom chat too.
Control C, then I'll perform those two, right?
Yes, you may copy paste.
Yeah, just the first part without user, and then.
So you may leave intact the end of the string, because the value of this variable contains the name of your user. So you may execute these commands as is, without any modifications.
Sorry for question, but I put with sudo systematical start Java of CT 09.
Mhm.
There is no answer. When I input pseudo-systematical star knowledge of CT09,
Mhm.
the same no answer.
Mhm.
Is it okay or no?
Absolutely right. And it is
I
okay.
mean,
So
the third comment.
s- so when you start or restart service, it's okay not to have any output. As you may see at my screen, I see no output here. And when we operate with starting service or with restarting service or with stopping service, it's a normal case when we do not see any kind of output.
Okay. But how I can understand that we should start work after this comment?
So if you want to ensure that your service was started successfully, you may use the following command. So
Okay.
the name of the command is the same, but instead of start, you may type this keyword and then specify the service that you are interested in.
So further, sorry, you will share this video in Mentorpiece rule in YouTube on YouTube, right?
Yes, right. So we will publish this video into our channel on YouTube.
Mentorpiece rule, and you have another one.
So as far as I remember, we we have more than one YouTube channel, and the link to the video will be posted in our channels in Telegram.
Oh, got it.
Further, I'm
Mhm.
happy my system is the same active running. Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
That's good. So yes, right. I see that Alexander's services are up and running and your services are up and running as well. Okay, so it means that we need to figure out which ports are used by your front end and your backend applications. So if you do not know Linux a bit, the following commands may look like a black magic, but anyway, they are very simple and they are very basic. So you may trust me that we do not do anything complicated here. So first, we need to know which ports are open for listening. So it means that which ports are accepting requests from outside. For that, we need to execute the command shown here, and it's better to send the command to Zoom chat as before.
I got it already.
I'm ready. Yeah.
That's nice. So, and
It's getting better now.
Yes, right. And here you may see two lines that differ from others. Because in the right column, you may see one process whose name is Node and other process whose name is Java, right? Do you see something similar?
Yes, I do. The screen looks a little bit different formation, but I figured out.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. That's great. So what does it mean? We know that Node.js is our front, so it means UI. It means that Node.js service is the main service to communicate with customers. And in the fourth column, we see the port number. It means that our Node.js service is listening on this port, and the number of ports for you will be different. But anyway, you know how to figure out the number of the port.
Well, yes.
Okay, so and what should we do with this information? We should open a browser, and we need to input the following URL. So we need to specify the name of application protocol. Then we need to specify the IP address of our server column. And after that, we need to specify the port number. And when you are ready, you simply may press enter. And you will see something like this. So please let me know when you're ready. Again, the last two digits in the port number for you will be something different.
I get it.
Nice. And Elena, what about you?
No, sorry. I have the same, but in my case, they say it cannot provide safety connection.
Okay, so you may ignore this warning and continue.
Yeah. Okay.
Fedor, I have a question. Is this
Mhm.
port which I typed, is this, where is it? Is it on our side or is it on a server side? It's on the side.
Okay, so we asked a server which open ports are located here. And it means that there is network service that is related to node process that also handles this listening port with the following number.
So this is a response somehow.
So it means that you open your browser and you want to access an external server that is located within our educational subnet, and you want to access a web application that is listening on this port.
Okay.
Okay, already I see the same page.
Super. And we also may use, so there are no valid accounts shown here. So we may jump a bit later and use, for example, the following accounts. The username is root and passwords are from 1 to 4. So
is it making a difference between, or we should use the same one which you
yes, you may use the same account because that are not Linux account. These accounts are valid only within your web applications, so they are not somehow related to the operating system, to your database, and so on. Imagine that you log into Gmail or to your Yandex Mail or to Mail.ru, I don't know, and this application at the very basis, it works in the same way. So just for example, you cannot log into Gmail by using your name and password. You cannot log into Gmail via SSH, right? You may log in only via your browser and you will see your mail inbox. You cannot do the same for SSH because SSH accounts for your operating system and your application layer accounts are really different things.
Well, it's complicated, but I understand the meaning. All right.
Okay, so anyway, you may use any of accounts shown here, and moreover, if so, these attempts, our attempts and our logins do not interfere each other. So if I log in by using, I don't know, Gosha, it cannot affect your instances of your application.
So I'm done with the root 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so I may use the same.
I'm in there.
Yes, right. And again, this application is really simple. So in much more complicated applications, just for example, internet shops or big email hubs like Yandex or Gmail, here you may see your personal account information. You may see your inbox messages. You may see, I don't know, your items that you ordered before, and so on and so on. But here you may see your page that is accessible just after login. So you see the name of user, you see some kind of role, and you see some kind of page content. And here is sign out button, and when we press it, we log out. Okay, if I use any other account, I will see other information here. So when I logged in as root, I saw another caption here. So because root is an administrator and Gosha is a student, and again I see sign out button. So and here you just have seen the normal operations of this very simple application.
All right.
Okay, so it was a simple showcase of what the application can do. And let's continue to the next slides, or I'm open for your question. Okay, so I hope that you will have a lot of them a bit later.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so here there is some kind of cheat sheet, and maybe I can make a font to be a bit bigger. So there is a list of useful commands that we will execute during our troubleshooting session. So I don't want to spend a lot of time here. Anyway, we will use some kind of them, or maybe all of them, a bit later. By the way, if you are interested in, you may request our colleagues in our channels on Telegram, and if you want to get this deck in PDF, you may ask us, and we will share that.
Is this most common or just related to our?
So I can say that the most part of this command are really common. So they may be useful in a wide variety of use cases. But I want to say some words about logging because our simple educational applications are so their logging are related to this subsystem. But it's not so common. In most cases, when your developers implement something big and standalone and so on, in most cases, they prefer to handle log files and log messages by their own. So it means that the way of operating with log files will somehow differ.
Are we operating with the log files with those commands? Am I correct?
Yes, right. So a bit later, we will look at log messages of our services to find the root cause.
Should we try to do some, or where are we going next?
So we will go next, and again, this is some kind of cheat sheet, and maybe it's more useful when you request a PDF after the workshop.
Yeah, I understand it's gonna take a while if we'll try to type it now.
Okay, so anyway, we will use some of them during several showcases. So guys, I need to warn you that we do not have a lot of time. That's why we would not be able to dig deeper into all of these 4 cases. So which types you prefer? So I can say that the first and the second one are relatively simple, and we have a good chances. So we have good chances to complete them before 9 p.m.
Yeah, sounds right.
Okay, or we may jump to the third one, and it may take a bit more time. So what kinds of issues do you prefer?
I guess the first 2.
Okay.
What about the lady?
Yelena?
Yeah, okay, first one.
Okay, so let's jump to the first one. The first one, typically, it's not a bug itself. So imagine a case when when a customer comes to you and says, so yesterday everything was okay and I logged in successfully, but now I cannot do that. I see an error. You need to ask him about the exact username that he or she uses to log in into your system. And then you may start to debug or to troubleshoot and find the real root cause of this application behavior. So to reproduce the case, we may input username that is definitely wrong. So we know which names are correct and which passwords are correct, but let's use something that is definitely wrong. For example, no such user. And after that, we may input an arbitrary password, and then we may press login. So it means that we do not need to crash our application. We may try to supply definitely wrong input data. But imagine that the user stands that this data is correct. So we open a browser and we type anything incorrect here. No such user, I don't know. And again, we may input anything here.
Yep, and the system responds this login and password error.
Yes, right. But in this case, when we input something definitely wrong, we know that we are wrong.
Right.
But when a customer comes to you and cries and says, "Please help me, I don't know what to do," you do not know the exact reason beforehand, and you need to find the root cause. And that's the same that we will do right now.
All right. It's interesting.
Yes, right. So as we ensured that these username and passwords are not valid, and we need to go deeper and find out what's happening. So what we will do right now. Right now, we open a terminal, and we may do something like black magic. But that's not a black magic, that's simply displaying log messages of both our UI service and backend service in the same time. So it means that log messages that come from Node.js auth service and Java auth service will be displayed in the same terminal in the order of appearance. So what can I do? Journal CTL -f means that I want to see the events as soon as they arrive, and -u I specify the name of services. So let me type the comments, and after that I will send that to you in Zoom chat. Node.js auth user, again -u, Java auth user. So let me check myself. Everything is okay, and yes, right. So you may use the command that was sent as Zoom chat as is, without any kind of modification.
Thank you, Philip.
And while you are copy pasting the command in putty, I can explain what's happening here. So first, you will see some past events, but they are not so interesting for us because when you executed the command will display you any fresh events when they happen. So Alexander and Elena, please let me know when you are ready.
Should we use the same user as that in the message you sent it to us?
Yes, you may leave the following construction intact because it points to your username.
I'm ready. I see that about Moscow.
Super. Yes, right. And after you see these lines, you may press enter several times, and it will help you to distinguish new events from old events. As you see, there are some empty lines here within my terminal, and they happen after my pressing enter several times. Okay, so let me repeat the same operation. So no such user, something like that, and an arbitrary password. And then I press login, and then I see the corresponding log messages at my terminal. I hope that you see something like that.
Yes.
Me too.
Okay, nice. But when we look at our log messages here, we do not see anything that can point us to the root cause, because as we may remember from the slides before, when something really bad happens with our Java auth service, we see warn or error substrings in the corresponding log lines. But we do not see, so we do not see something similar here. We see something probably bad here. But when we try to carefully read everything that is specified here, we cannot see anything that will help us to find a root cause. And this case is not so rare. It's often. It means that we cannot extract anything helpful from our log files. It means that we need to apply another kind of troubleshooting techniques. So that's why we may, for example, request our backend service directly. So what I mean directly, I mean that in normal case, your backend communicates only with your frontend and your database. In normal case, your backend is hidden from customers, and customers cannot operate directly with backend. But keeping in mind that we have something like a test lab, and we have our own servers, and we know how to operate with backend, it means that we may use backend, and we can ask it by a browser. So let me send you URL. And instead of X and Y, you need to input the corresponding port numbers that are used by Java application. So and the last two numbers would be the same as for your front end.
So as I guess, when we try to log in directly to the backend, and if we get same error, so it maybe means that we don't have issue on front end, right?
The core idea is something different.
Mhm.
So the core idea is that we may operate directly with our backend, and by using this technique, by accessing our backend service by browser, we may simply check whether our backend service is fully operational or not.
It's just checking backend is working right in the right way or not.
Yes, right. Moreover, as we know, or as we may guess, the main logic principle of this application, when we request the following URL from our backend, it will respond with JSON format, and this JSON format looks like you see.
Yeah.
And just for example, if we have some automated tools to parse this JSON response, we may look for the username that you have inputted a few minutes before, and you would not find the same username here. But anyway,
so this JSON is just took it by backend from DB, right?
Yes, right. So again, this application is really simple, and this JSON was created based on the content of our database.
Got it.
So this JSON is simply another kind of the same data representation that are stored in the database. And anyway, the point number 2 is a simple check. So we may not, so if we don't trust our backend, no one can stop us from accessing our database directly, because maybe our backend has a logical bug and it doesn't report us the full information, or something goes wrong with backend. I don't know. Anyway, in such case, it's possible to request our database directly, and it's simple to do. You may return to your terminal and execute this one-liner in your PuTTY or any other kind of client. So I want to execute, or if you prefer to see what's happening, you may use something like that. You may navigate across your database. So, and we need to specify the name of our database. So, right, I'm here. I may see which tables are there. So, as was explained before, this table contains two. So this database contains two useful tables. One table is named login, another table is named role. And let's look within, select anything from login. And you may see the data that are stored within table login. And when we try, and imagine that there is a lot of records here. I don't know, 1 million records here. And it means that this query is useless, because we don't want to parse 1 million lines by our eyes. So let's select, for example, anything from login, and we put a filter where login like no such user. And we see that there are no records in login table where account name is similar to no such user. And this fact means that we completed our troubleshooting, and we found the root cause. And it means that the customer used a wrong account name. So that's not a bug, but anyway, we helped the customer to find out the real reason.
All right.
Okay, so if you want, I may send this one-liner into Zoom chat. So I hope that there might be some issues with quotes that may be converted erroneously between PDF and terminal and so on. So anyway, you may use the following construction just from your terminal. And the answer should be empty. So I may repeat that. And by the way, if you entered MySQL interactive session, you may type exit or Control-D, and the internal MySQL session will be finished. So, and if you don't want to fall into MySQL session, you may use one command, just like that, and you will see an empty result. And just compare it to, for example, root user or Gosha user.
Mhm.
Okay. So guys, do you have any questions regarding this showcase?
Well, I have a question. Is this comment which we used in a browser to get the information, where we got this from? It was a backend. It was a backend, right?
Yes, right. So in point 2 here,
Yeah.
mhm, we directly accessed our backend, and we know which URLs are valid for our backend from this kind of technical requirements.
Mhm.
So you may consider this information not as a black magic or not as my guess. You may we may think that we got this information from our analysts or from our developers or from our DevOps anyway, from some kind of good and useful source.
So it basically was the same thing, just we was using the browser at that time.
Yes, right. Actually, our UI part is simple too, and when a user inputs his or her name and password, the front end pass so the front end passes this pair of username and password to the backend, and then backend checks whether this username and password are valid by accessing database, and if everything is okay, it reports the okay status to front end, and after that our front end allows us to log in and to see the page with the description of our user and so on.
But we cannot access the database from the browser, right?
Absolutely right. So we cannot access because so you may try, but you will see something something useless.
Oh, it's okay. I understand the meaning.
Mhm. Because our browsers are not developed to operate with databases.
So only one way to use our tool. to check.
So we, as QA engineers that have open access to our database, right now we can operate directly with MySQL, right? So just for example, let me. So which MySQL? Yes, right. So that's a terminal opened at my laptop, and no one can stop me to dbs01. That's my username, and I want to operate with the remote host with the following address. I have a version mismatch between my MySQL client and MySQL server deployed at our educational machine. So unfortunately, I cannot show you the sample between my laptop and MySQL server, but anyway, this database is open for us right now, but in real world cases, and customers definitely cannot.
Probably closed. Yeah.
Hmm?
It's probably closed.
Yes, right. Because your database is probably the most confidential, confidential and the most valuable information that your company has. And if anyone can even read this information, it's very bad for your business. And I hope that all of you have heard of very bad stories when, for example, a part or the whole database of customers was leaked somewhere to internet due to security misconfiguration, due to, I don't know, security vulnerability or something else.
Yes, very often.
Yes, right. So, but anyway, the database, so the access to database is very limited. And when we speak about real productive systems and applications, if this big application that is split to front end, the back end, and the database is deployed somewhere in internet, and if you are a QA engineer, you need to get a lot of approvals before you can access to your productive database. But when we speak about our test environment and so on, to release new builds, to fix bugs, and to reproduce customers' bugs and so on, in most cases, the access to front-end servers, back-end servers, and database servers are opened for you as QA engineers, and you will have no issues to access the database within your test subnets and environments and so on.
Is like the whole database or just a part of it?
It really requires on your access permissions.
Mhm. Yeah, understand.
But typically when we speak about the test environment, so if we speak about test environments and test subnets, in most cases you have access to very big amount of different databases.
All right.
Okay, guys. So do you have any more questions regarding the first case?
Well, everything seems to be informative. Yeah, no questions so far.
Nice to hear that. And Elena, what can you say about that?
Well, everything went right, so we didn't find any bugs. We just find the answer.
Yes, right. So sometimes it's not a bug at all, but we need to find the root cause.
Root cause. Okay, I'll remember that.
Can I a little bit to sum up maybe the whole idea? A good quality engineer, we have to localize the bug and to find out there is located backend, database, or frontend. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it for the better result. It helped us to fix bug quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely
and,
right.
In other case, the bug was in a database because we don't find the information yet. Or it wasn't a bug at all. It was just a mistake of the customer.
Yes, right. Sometimes you may face such cases.
Okay, but the information about these mistakes we found in a database, yeah?
Yes, right. Because just in this case, it's better to request this information directly from database. So in this case, we know that our database is the primary source of information. And if we cannot find the corresponding username in our database, it means that login attempts with this name of the user will fail. And it's okay, but it would be much worse, much worse case when we find the information of this user in our database, but for some unknown reasons, this user isn't able to log in. In this case, we need to debug or to find a real root cause in our UI part, in our backend part, and so on. And that case would be much harder. But this case, when we haven't found the username in our database, is much simpler.
Yeah, I see.
Mhm.
And it means that the first other step, the first one, yes, try to log in via browser. It's like we work with front end. The second was we work the back end, yes,
Mhm.
and the
Absolutely
third
right.
one, database, yes.
Absolutely right.
So, okay.
Mhm. So in this very simple example, you may see how you may directly access all parts of your complicated application. So the main idea is to show that it's not so hard, especially if you know how your application is split and how it works. So for a good software engineer, there should be no black magic at all, because you have enough experience and enough understanding of how your application really works, and how you may operate directly with every part of your application.
And about the command which you use, will we learn them on other course? Because it seems a little bit like magic when you.
Okay, so this kind of introduction is not included in this presentation, but in brief, I can say that this masterclass, or I'm sorry, this workshop may be considered as a part of our module, just for troubleshooting, and this troubleshooting module is given just after our Linux modules, network modules, databases, and web technologies. Because if you don't know how to see, for example, how to look at currently running work, of currently how to list currently running processes, or how to see the list of listening ports, and so on, it means that this command will look like black magic. That's why we put these materials of bug localization in the end of our IT basis.
Okay, I see.
Okay, guys. So do you have any more questions about the first issue?
Yes, I do, but we have so less time, so little time.
I think that it's better to hear and answer your questions about the first issue, and to show you in brief the second and maybe the third issue.
Sure, I have one question. Is
Mhm.
those answers, those response from the system, like something went wrong, for example,
Mhm.
those answers like was created by developers, right? Just for this our case. That's correct.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. That's why to successfully work as a QA engineer with your application, especially if your application is really complicated and difficult and so on, you need to get as much as possible details of this application. And of course, you need also to ask a lot of questions regarding the format of log files, of where these log files are stored, how you may access these log files, and so on.
Yeah, it must be a lot of information because you need to know what is wrong. Yeah, how is written when it's wrong.
Absolutely right. Moreover, if something goes wrong, In the common case, you do not have a full guarantee that these error messages will be written in your log files. That's why you need to know how your logging is configured. So maybe you need to make your application more verbose. Maybe you need to force it to write more information in log files. And this configuration guides are also required, and it's also a very good question to your developers of, hey guys, I need to know how to configure logging.
Well, yeah, you have to know how it looks like, right or wrong.
I'm sorry, may you repeat please the end of your sentence?
I mean, you have to know how does it looks right answers and wrong answers from the log from the system.
Absolutely right, because you need to know how to distinguish a good activity or a bad activity. Just for example, in a good case, so I mean, in case when everything is ideal, if your work processes are ideal, if your team has analysts who write a lot of useful documentation, you also need to have the exact information. Just for example, which log lines are written to your log files when a user successfully logs in, and which log events are written into your log files when a user tries so when user performs an unsuccessful login attempt. And you need to have the similar information for every typical activity, like, I don't know, like adding an item to the basket, like removing item from the basket, like making an order or searching for something and so on.
Is that written in the documentation mostly, or is just based on your experience? You just see
it depends on a lot of factors and reasons. So it really depends on how mature your team is, how mature your product is, how many analysts and QA engineers does your company have. For example, if you work in a startup, you have very few chances to get anything well documented.
And as well, it's going to be hard to read the logs.
Yes, right. That's why, just for example, to successfully work in a startup, you need to be, how it can be said, you need to be very, you need to push everyone every time and to push hard to get something valuable, because anyone will be busy to write and to implement a new feature and to show this new feature to potential investors and so on. And that's why for startups at the very early stages of their life cycle, mostly they do not need a lot of QA engineers, because being a QA engineer, you will try to ask them very annoying questions and you will try to distract them from writing a lot of code and so on.
Yeah, most probably all the requirements doesn't get through any checks from the QA, like verifying are they checkables or not, because it's very, very important.
Yes, right. And again, based on my experience, even in relatively not so old companies, but not in very young companies, even working in companies with more than 1,000 people, developers, PMs, QA engineers, and other technical guys. Sometimes it's really hard to get a good kind of technical documentation.
Well, that's very interesting. Thank you very much for
You too.
sharing.
So guys, do you have any more questions about the first issue? If not, I can briefly show something else.
No, I don't have any more.
Okay,
No question here.
okay. Share and Nikita.
No,
And
no.
okay, so let's go next. So we have, I can say that the force is the longest. Backend doesn't work. Okay, so let me show what's going on when we have some issues with database content. We will be really cruel, and we will simply drop the whole table from our database. And let's see what's going after that. So what can I do? I can log in again to the database. I can execute show tables. I can execute the command to completely remove one table.
Drop it the same meaning like erasing.
Yes, right. And after that, I may ensure that the table is not here anymore. Yes, right. So I see only row table, and it means that I removed the table completely. And after that, I may try to use valid username and password here, and I don't see anything. And this case is really often because I mean that when you do something, when you know that there is an error, but you do not see what's happening here. Yes, right. So I may press login a lot of times, but I won't see anything, right? And what if, so what can I do with that? Just for example, I may go in the same way as before. So I may start debugging and searching for the root cause just from the front end. So I may request the most recent events from the front end service, journal CTL -f -u and the name of my front end service. Yes, right. So many enters to distinguish old events from new events. Yes, right. So let's see what's happening there. And again, so, and I see nothing for unknown reasons. Anyway, I may ask what's the status of my application. Systemctl status node.js -os, and everything is okay, and it's active and running. But for some unknown reasons, it doesn't display anything in its log files. So it means that I need to access some other part of my big application. So what if I'll try to directly request my backend? Why not? I remember the port number, and I see that this URL that worked well, now it shows me an error. And moreover, the status is too generic and too common, and I cannot see anything that may point me to the exact reason. And again, what's common here?
It's the same. Nothing is gonna.
Yes, right. So the main idea is that I cannot say that all developers are lazy or stupid, not at all. But the task to show all details about our possible errors and issues, such tasks are really not so important, and that's why in common case all developers forget about that, and all PMs may also forget about that, and that's why you don't see any verbals and exact messages of what's happening, why you press login and you see nothing, right? And here too, you see very common and very generic error like internal server error with the code 500, and it's really too common and it means really nothing. And to figure out what's happening, you need to go much deeper, right? So let's look at our backend logs, and maybe you may see something interesting, or we may do even something more complicated, and we may display in real time and in conjunction logs of our backend and frontend. Java user. Okay, let's see what may happen here. Again, open our browser and try to log in. Nothing happened there. I don't know why again. And what if we access our backend directly? Maybe we will see something in its log files. Yes, right. So we see a lot of log messages, and it's a challenge to find something useful here because it's one not so secret information, but when a developer who uses Java does not pay an attention to error processing and so on, Java errors may see like a kilometer of useless lines.
But here we can see
yes, right.
that doesn't exist.
Yes, right. So here we may see in the first lines of this kilometer of useless information, we see something important. We see warning marks, we see error marks, and moreover, we see that SQL error, some kind of state, and we also see that at the next line that table does not exist. But anyway, maybe our backend is crazy or is broken, right? So to completely ensure, we may directly access our database, and we may repeat show table command, show tables, right? And we see that there is no table named login. And as we may consider our database to be the main and the most important source of data, it means that we actually do not have the corresponding table, and something goes wrong with our database. And that means that we need to call for our database administrators or for our DevOps. It really depends on our escalation matrix and the responsibility of other colleagues, and you need somehow who has the full access to your database to fix this issue. Maybe the responsible person needs to find an actual backup and to restore this information from the most recent backup. But anyway, we are good guys because we found the root cause and we may report all details about the root cause. So that's all about the issue number 2.
All right, I have a quick question. Those steps in the debug processing, are they useful for most kind of the cases when we're facing the trouble? Is it correct? Like we have to do first
Yes,
step,
right.
then second, then third, fourth.
Yes, right. So I cannot say that there is a universal. So I cannot say that there is the best way in all cases. I can say that this algorithm may be useful to find a root cause in 3-tier web application, regardless its details and specifics.
So basically, if you have not that much experience, you can use these steps, and it's my
Yes,
yeah.
yes, right. So I can say that as for as for as for debugging and troubleshooting at common, we may provide something more complicated, like algorithms, like typical points of failures and so on. But in the most common way, you may try to find out the root cause just starting from your interface, then digging deeper to the backend layer, and after that to see what's happening with your database. Of course, something may go wrong with network, with accounts to access database and so on, and you need to have some. So you need to have some experience. Ideally, you need to have an experience of work with different applications, and ideally, if you work with the same or similar applications for several years, your intuition and your experience may help you to predict, and just for example, which issues are the most common. But it's very unpredictable and it's very subjective.
Sure, and with the less experience, you will have a lot of work to do.
Yes, right. So guys, I may say that the main part of our workshop is over. And if you have any more questions, you are free to ask me now.
So I have a question. After that, when we figure out our main cause of the issue, how is what is better have to show in our bug report? So, for example, we found that the main reason of the issue is absence of the table. So in bug report, we show that a screenshot and we put some remark.
How to compose the caption of a bug? It really depends on. So there are several best practices of how to do that, or your company may have its own best practice or recommendations of how to create a good caption of bugs. And as for all related materials and log files and screenshots and so on, you may, if you found just the same issue of absence of some table, you may also attach something like this one. But what you should better to attach, it really depends on the bug you have found.
And I guess first of all, before creating bug report, so is it better to inform, and after that, inform, I mean, inform responsible engineer or developer or DB administrator, and so after that, start creating. Right?
This question, and the correct answer is really depends on your work process. But in the common case, first you file a bug, so you need to create the bug. You need to attach everything related to this bug and how you found that, and you need to prove that the bug really exists. And after that, you need to assign this bug to so even the exact person or exact team to assign a bug, it really depends on the work processes and procedures within your company. So sometimes you assign a bug to some kind of dispatcher. So to a responsible person who then routes a bug to someone else. Maybe you it really depends even on the configuration of your Jira or TFS and so on. Sometimes if you select a specific type of bug, just for example, bugs related to database. In these cases, if your Jira is configured in this way, this bug will be automatically assigned to the database team. So it really depends on the procedures and processes that are negotiated within your company.
Answered. Thanks.
Okay, guys. So do you have any more questions for this workshop?
So as a part of other two issues which we have, we will observe in other workshop, or
so I'm not sure, but if I can discuss this question or this request with my colleagues, and if we find that these items will be interesting for you and for other guys, maybe we will consider to perform another series of these workshops.
yeah, I think it will be very interesting.
Yes, right, and I really hope that your issues with OpenVPN will be somehow fixed.
Yeah, I will try to authorize from another laptop. By the way, only just by observing what are you doing, and it's much better than nothing.
Okay, yes, I agree. Okay, guys, any more questions about that?
No. Thank you.
No, just I would like to say thanks further for your time, and it was really interesting to see how the idea works. So, and a lot of different details. So thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So thanks for your questions, and I hope that today you decided that there would be no black magic for you anymore.
Thank you.
Okay, you too. So please leave your feedbacks in our channels, and we will also publish the link to our YouTube channel with the video recording.
Sure. Thanks, everyone.
Have a nice evening. Bye. See
You
you.
too.
Right,
You
bye,
too.
guys.
Bye.